Think of queens and countesses, and you probably picture elegance, jewels, and power. But what if one of history's most powerful noblewomen believed the secret to eternal youth lay in something far more horrific than any beauty cream? What if she literally bathed in the blood of hundreds of young women? Forget fairy tales. This is the chilling legend of Elizabeth Báthory, the Blood Countess, whose dark quest for eternal beauty became a nightmare that terrified an entire kingdom. In the wild, remote lands of 17th-century Hungary stood Szeged Castle, home to Countess Elizabeth Báthory. She was born into one of the most ancient and powerful noble families in Europe, a woman of immense wealth, influence, and breathtaking beauty. But what history books conveniently leave out is the horrifying whispers that began to spread like a plague through the surrounding villages. Whispers of missing girls, of a chilling transformation, and of an unspeakable ritual performed within the castle walls. The story goes that one day, frustrated by a servant girl who had accidentally pulled her hair, Báthory struck her. A drop of the girl's blood spattered onto the countess's hand. And in that moment, Báthory allegedly believed she saw the skin beneath the blood miraculously rejuvenate. This, she concluded, was the secret. Not gold, not power, but youth, preserved in the very essence of others. And thus, a monstrous obsession was born. Imagine being a young peasant girl, lured to Szeged Castle with promises of work, good food, or a better life. What you found instead was a descent into a living hell. Báthory, it is said, became convinced that bathing in the blood of virgins would maintain her youth and beauty. This wasn't a one-time act, it was a ritual, a macabre regimen that required a constant supply of victims. The accounts, though heavily debated by historians, paint a gruesome picture. Young women, primarily peasant girls and later even noblewomen, were allegedly brought to the castle. They were subjected to unimaginable torture, needles under fingernails, mutilation, burning, freezing, all to extract their blood. It was collected in tubs and vats, in which the countess would then reportedly immerse herself. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. This wasn't just about a madwoman. This was about power. Báthory had complete authority over her vast estates. Her noble status, her family's influence, and the sheer terror she inspired meant that for years, no one dared to intervene. The local villagers knew something terrible was happening. Girls simply vanished. Yet, the fear of crossing the Blood Countess was so profound that they could only whisper, praying for an end to the nightmare. You don't learn this in your standard history lessons, but the reason Báthory's alleged reign of terror lasted for decades wasn't just her cunning, it was the complicity of the ruling elite. For years, the Hungarian monarchy turned a blind eye. Reports of disappearances and torture reached the highest levels, but Báthory's family was too powerful, too well-connected. Intervening meant challenging a formidable dynasty, risking political upheaval, and potentially war. It was only when the victims began to include daughters of lesser nobility, threatening the social fabric and Báthory's financial power, as rumors hurt her reputation and tax revenue, that action was finally taken. In 1610, after years of ignored pleas, Palatine Georgi Thurzo, a high-ranking official, was finally authorized to investigate. What his men allegedly found inside Szeged Castle shocked even hardened soldiers. Torture chambers, dungeons, and bodies. Hundreds of them. The official count of victims varies wildly, but it's estimated to be anywhere from dozens to over 650. The scale of the alleged depravity was almost incomprehensible. Unlike common criminals, Elizabeth Báthory was never formally tried or executed. Her noble status protected her from that fate. Instead, she was imprisoned within her own castle, locked in a room without windows or doors, only a small opening to pass food. She spent her final years in this solitary confinement, essentially walled up alive in the very place where her alleged horrors unfolded. She died 4 years later, reportedly of natural causes. Her accomplices, however, were not so lucky. Several of her servants were put on trial, brutally tortured, and then executed, some burned alive, others beheaded. This disparity in punishment highlighted the stark reality of the era. Justice was for the common folk, not for powerful nobility. The legend of the Blood Countess served as a terrifying reminder of how unchecked power, combined with dark desires, could create a monster that operated above the law. The story of Elizabeth Báthory, whether fully fact or exaggerated legend, remains one of history's most chilling tales of depravity and the abuse of power. It's a gruesome reflection of a time when royal status could seemingly grant immunity even to the most horrific crimes. The queen who allegedly bathed in blood didn't just terrorize her own people, she became a dark symbol, a horrifying counter-narrative to the romanticized image of royalty. If this disturbing dive into the true darkness of historical power fascinates you, hit that subscribe button, because history is riddled with these gruesome secrets that textbooks conveniently leave out. And trust me, there's always a deeper, darker truth lurking beneath the surface.